fire, breath. Oh yeah. Ever wanted to know how to do these effects? Well, this is the tutorial for you. I'm going to cover the particle simulator and how to do the atomic breath effect. Open Blender. Delete the default cube. Add an object. Doesn't matter which, any object works. Select your object. Go to the side panel. Select Particle Properties. Press the plus. Press play and watch those particles flow. Feel like there's not enough particles? Change the number of them. Want them to start later or sooner? Change the start and end time. Feel like they're ending too quickly? Up the lifetime. Feel like it's not random enough? Slide up the lifetime random. The Source tab determines where your particles will flow from. You can leave the emit from as faces, and you can leave the distribution as jittered. Next up is the Cache tab. Every time you are finished your simulation, you are going to want to bake your simulation. This ensures that it will not be changed no matter which other settings that you use. This will make sure that your particles will also render properly. If you would like to add some variation to your simulation, go under the Velocity tab and you can either up the normal or the randomize. These will help ensure that some of those particles just kind of go in all different directions. Don't slide it up too high, otherwise it might look a little weird. Add a new object into your scene. Generally something spherical. I tend to like to go with the icosphere as it has the least amount of vertices and faces, making it a little bit easier to render. Move it off to the side. Apply an emissive texture to it and make it glow blue. Take your emissive object, move it way off outside of your scene, preferably out of the view of the camera. You do not want this interfering with your render. Click back to your original object, and under the particle properties, go down to render. You will see render from. Choose the object option. Underneath, you're going to set your instance object as the object that you have just created, in this case the icosphere, and your particles should start emitting as your newly created object. This is the look that we're going for. It just needs a little bit more work to get quite there. You can mess around with the particle size as well as the random size as well. Before you make your final render, you are going to switch off Show Emitter. That will make your original sphere invisible from your final render. Once again, we are adding in something new. This time it is a wind force field. Adding this will allow us to direct the particles in any direction that we so choose. We're going to angle it in the direction that we want, and then we are going to slide up the strength of that wind. That should send our particles flying in the specific direction that it is pointing. Now you can go ahead and bake your simulation and click render. What you should have is the desired effect. This is sort of that classic 60s, 70s look that you're kind of going for, with all the streaks and the missing bits in between. Do just keep in mind that motion blur must be turned on to achieve this desired effect, but it should work in both Cycles and Eevee for Blender. I find that Eevee works just a little bit better for this type of effect because the bloom can be enabled ahead of time. However, with a little bit of compositing effects after, you can do this effect in Cycles pretty good as well. But now let's move on to something that looks maybe just that tiny little bit better. This time, instead of using an object or the icosphere as your instance object for the particles, you are instead going to use an image. Find yourself a nice smoke or cloud texture with a transparent background. You will want to make sure that the Images as Planes add-on is enabled in Blender. Once it is, you can import your smoke or cloud image right into the program. It should load it up with the transparent background intact. Switch your instance object over to said cloud or smoke, and it should apply it. But you'll notice that the texture is completely sideways, and the breath looks completely off. To fix this, go back to your render properties, find that rotation tab, click it so that it is activated, and then switch on the randomize. Once you play or bake your scene all out again, it should be all properly aligned in sort of a random fashion and look a little bit more like smoke or fire. Continue to play around with the velocity settings as well as the render scale, and you should be able to come out with somewhat of a desired effect. And here is the final effect. Obviously, it's not perfect. I feel like I could have definitely upped the strength of that wind modifier. However, once you kind of get it all down, spend a couple hours playing around with it, you should be able to get some desired effects, kind of like what I did back in my original video, such as this. Thank you for watching. Hopefully this tutorial was very helpful. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like. Definitely comment down below if there was anything I missed or didn't cover, or if you have any questions or concerns, I will try to answer them as best as possible. And definitely go watch the other videos on my channel. I have a brand new Top Gun Star Wars crossover video that I think is pretty cool, and you might enjoy that. See you next time.